It's your girl Beezsa, and it's been a while, I know. But first, welcome back to those who have already been rocking with me and have subscribed, and welcome to those that are new that have stumbled across my channel. Please click that subscribe button, and please everyone share with your friends. Yeah, and all that good stuff. I'm trying to figure out where I want to start because it feels like it's been a minute, and it has. This is probably my first actual somewhat lengthy YouTube video for 2025. I have done just a couple of shorts, but nothing that really involved a lot of me talking and kind of just giving more of a glimpse of what's been going on in life. But first and foremost, how are y'all feeling? I hope that everything is going well. I hope that anything that did not serve you is no longer around you anymore. I have been really taken in a devotion that I've read quite some time ago about necessary pruning, and just like the trees in the springtime and all the things, how they have to cut off, you know, trim back their branches and all that stuff in order to stand and remain firm and to produce good and be produce good fruit and be fruitful. We have to do the same, and to make sure that we are regularly cleansing our environment, cleansing our spirit, emotionally, mentally, our love, making sure it's pure and it's not tainted, and so on and so forth, in order to make sure we are getting the highest quality of life and we're getting the best out of our lives. So with that being said, welcome. But I'm trying to think where I want to begin. 2025, firstly, let's take a step back to when, I think it was November of last year. And you may hear my dog in the background. He's making his way. But there was a blog that I posted on Substack, and it was titled Reset. So I do kind of want to reference that for a minute, because where I'm getting ready to go, that blog resonates with me. I wrote that blog with the idea in mind that reset to me does not mean to start completely over. I've never been a person to where I completely abandoned who I was in order to become who I am now, and also who I will be. I feel like life is a set of building blocks, so we do have to keep that in mind as we're going through life. So there's going to be times where we have embarked on journeys that we're not so proud of. And then there's going to be, you know, times where we have so many accolades and accomplishments and things that we just want to remember forever. And we have to realize that we are a combination of all of that. And that is what makes us who we are, and it builds character and so on and so forth. But I wrote that blog, and I just talked about, you know, what it takes to reset, and how to, as I said a few minutes ago, how to constantly, you know, check, reassess your environment, you know, necessary pruning, how I mentioned that, you know, just making sure that every chapter of your life is doing what it needs to do, and it is serving what it's supposed to serve in the moment you are in your life. But jumping away from that, I had a little bit of a reset myself, personally. And this is new for me. I don't normally publicly talk about what happens with me. And when I say that, let's just say I don't talk about certain things. And that's just me creating boundaries. But I do have a testimony, and I have recently went through a series of events that I am still taking on right now, and it is a journey for me. But it's life-changing and it's eye-opening. And I just want to talk about how it tested me, how it also revealed where I'm at in life. It basically made me prove to myself that I am where I think I'm at, you know? So I do feel a lot of the times we profess and we manifest and we talk about how we are and where we are, and we're so over that, we're so past that, we're so beyond that, until life hits you in a different way that you didn't think it was going to hit you, and then you realize you crumble. So I feel like God sends a lot of different situations to test your faith, and also just to test your spirit and where you are spiritually. And that is something I don't mind. You know, I don't like yes people around me, and God is not a yes man. So I do enjoy that challenge in that regard. And so if there's something that I need to wake up and see, or I need to, you know, have my vision cleared up to make sure I'm taking in what I'm supposed to take in, and to make sure I'm walking on the path that He has predestined for me, and I'm making the right decisions, I'm connecting with the right people, and so on and so forth. If He has to shake it up for me, I want Him to shake it up for me. But I say all this to talk about what has happened from Christmas break going into this year. So over the Christmas / New Year break, I had this vision issue. So I wear glasses and I wear contacts. I have been visually impaired since 3rd grade. That's another story for another time on how I found out. Quite embarrassing. But so I've been visually impaired for that long, and never really had a huge issue. When I do go to an optometrist or ophthalmologist or whichever, I do get the, you know, occasional astigmatism, you know, things like that. I've been treated as if I have glaucoma, because sometimes things can show to you know, maybe it maybe show signs that it could lead to that. Not necessarily saying I have that, but so, you know, nothing super, you know, major have I ever really been seen for. But for Christmas and New Year, maybe like 4 or 5 times, my vision in my right eye kept going in and out. And I mean like completely out. Like if you were to place your hand right over. And, you know, sometimes when you get up in the middle of the night to go use the restroom, whatever, and it's dark, you don't feel like turning on the lights, but you can see a little bit, whatever. I couldn't see anything, but in a minute it would come back. And most of the time that's something you would shrug off. You probably like, oh, maybe I'm rubbing my eyes too hard, or maybe just a little, you know, disoriented and I'm coming to. I did just kind of wake up out my sleep and stuff like that. But something told me, and I'm just gonna say it was God, because the way I'm about to tell the story, there's so much within it. It's just good, you know, it's so good. And I'm just thankful that through it all, I've held on to the good through everything that was told to me. So once I think the first or 2nd week of January, I was like, okay, everything's opening back up. I'm going to go to the eye doctor and ask if they could see me on a medical checkup. And so they was like, sure. So, you know, I told them what was going on, went in, they did a scan on my, in the back of my eyes. And so he left for a second to check results and everything. And he came back and he said, I don't want to freak you out. He was like, but you need to go to the emergency room right now. And basically what he was telling me was, and I was calm the entire time. Just for those of you who know me, I'm very calm, cool, collected. Most will say I'm kind of kept together, but that's a loose term to say. But we're going to talk about that though. I was just at peace, you know. So he said, you know, he's like, we just want to make sure that we're not missing anything. But he was like, your optic nerves and both of your eyes are swollen, and you're hemorrhaging behind both of your eyes. Now, that would probably freak people out. But it was like, for me, I just, like, compartmentalized it right then and there. And that was a moment that tested me. It tested where I am in my journey, and it also told me how much more improvement I have to go through to get to where, you know, I aspire to be. I have, you know, elevated in other areas, but as I'm on this journey, because as I said, With Love Beezsa is a brand that empowers women. So not only am I empowering other women by sharing my stories and sharing my experiences and things like that, but I'm also empowering myself. And we all know sometimes it is hard to take your own advice. So this was kind of one of those things where I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, noted, Beezsa, noted. So, but I was just calm, straight face. And he said, you know, that signifies that there is either too much pressure or too much fluid in your brain. So, still calm. Now, let's backtrack. Before I went into the eye doctor's office, I'm a freelancer, as I mentioned I work for myself, but I travel and I take on different assignments. And the person that gives me, like, she checks me to see if I want to take on a project, she had already had texted me, and she's like, hey, you know, I have this client, this project coming up for pharma, this and that, you know, are you, you know, interested? Just let me know when you have a few minutes to speak. And so to me, before I walked into the office, I just already thought, like, okay, I'm just gonna come in here, they're gonna give me something to fix this, whoop-de-whoop, we're good. And then I'm going to Sephora, since it's in the mall, and then I'm also going to Trader Joe's, and then I'm going home. I had already planned out my day. So fast forward to when he tells me this news. And he says, okay, and he said, there's an emergency room right across the street. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I'm going to have my staff call ahead, so that way they'll already be there to know who you are, you know a little bit about what's going on with you before you arrive. Sure, fine. So he steps out to let his staff know. I literally picked up my phone, text her that sends me my assignments, and said, hey, I actually have a few minutes to chat now. Now, in hindsight, like now in my time of reflecting, I didn't realize how much of an out-of-body experience I was having at the time. I think that was my way of dealing with a shock of shocking news, because I've never heard or been told of anything that's super, you know, I can't find the word, because I kind of want to say mind-blowing, because it didn't give any sort of hopelessness, no. But for someone who hardly ever has anything wrong with her, you know, it just kind of made me feel like, okay, where did this come from? How did this happen? I was just here in September and had a whole eye exam and everything like that, and everything was fine. So it was kind of trying to figure out, like, what is going on. So I'm on the phone with her, chatting with her, and in the background, she hears the staff come up to me and say, hey, you know, we got you set up to go to the emergency room. She was like, oh my God, are you okay? What's going on? You know, are you okay? What's going on? And everything. And I'm just like, I said, yeah, I'm good. Tell me more about the client. Once again, I was compartmentalizing. Once again, I was choosing when I wanted to deal with what was going on. And I think what it is in my line of work, which is project management, sometimes you're faced with like stressful or like high tense environments, because there's like deadlines that have to be turned around. Sometimes there's so many moving parts that you can't really spend a lot of time mulling through it emotionally. You need to get it, you have to get it done, and I think that is just the corporate side of me, where it's just like boom, boom, boom. I mean, of course, if, things at a nice steady timeline and stuff, everything's good. But naturally, you're used to just getting it done, process it faster, get it done. So, I told her to continue telling me. She's like, you sure? She was like, well, you got 48 hours. Let me know. And I was like, okay, I'll let you know when I'm done. And I told her, what they had said to me at the eye doctor and stuff. And she just was like, oh my gosh. She was like, you're so calm. And I was just, and I was like, yeah, I'm just, because I think for me, it was like, what is freaking out going to do for me? What is crying out, anything like that, what is it going to do for me right then? And I think I was more so concerned with trying to figure out what was going on before I react, because for me it takes a lot, I mean, I honestly feel like just in general it takes a lot to be super emotional, even when it happens just involuntarily, and afterwards the feeling you feel and stuff. And it's just, I'm trying to wrap my mind around some of the information because it's bits and pieces. I don't go to an emergency room. I'm not a person that normally has to go to the hospital, so I didn't really know much about which hospitals in my area to go to, what is the preferred one, none of that. So it was just all a new experience for me. And let me tell you, emergency rooms, I had no idea. I had no idea how long you could actually be waiting. And it's nothing against those that work in that field. I am not coming at you about that. But I just never had been in that space. I'd heard about it, but I never really knew like what it is, but of course, it's a lot of people most of the time that's in there that needs to be seen. So I do understand. And sometimes you're seen on severity. So it just kind of depends. So I get there, I tell my husband meets me there. I call my parents, they're in another city. Then my dad, he comes up, he sits and waits with me and my husband and stuff. And, and I just was kind of also just hesitant to even involve everybody in it, because we've also have experienced loss like shortly before that. It just was kind of like, I have my husband, I have like, the people, and been communicating with the people that I really communicate like on a daily basis. So I'm like, I feel covered, I feel fine, I feel protected. Everybody doesn't have to, doesn't have to be crowds and crowds of people around me. And so that's kind of how I was looking at it. But my dad, he ended up coming, and he stayed with me and my husband, just to wait with us for a little bit and just talk with us, catch up with us. And then he ended up leaving. I got seen because they were telling me I needed to have an MRI done. And when I got my MRI, everything was fine. Blood work came back okay. Other than the fact that they did find out, I was super anemic. I already kind of knew about that just because I'm a PCOS girl. So I do deal with that. And for those who don't know what PCOS, I believe it's called polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it just basically is where sometimes you may need assistance in fertility. There's just certain steps missing within your body naturally, and that also leads into my cycles and stuff like that. Like things aren't the regular pattern, and that's basically what it is. It doesn't mean that you can't live a full life or have kids, nothing like that. It just means that you have a little bit more, maybe some more consulting sessions that you have to do and stuff like that. So I already knew about that, but the anemia, that was something that had kind of came up And I was like, okay, that's fine. But then, you know, that's when they were talking about papilledema. Papilledema is what my optic nerves are doing when they're swollen, and, you know, with the hemorrhaging and things like that. So that is what that is called. And then that's when they did, when I came, they sent me, let me make sure I get this right. So I checked out that evening. They had me go get a second opinion from an ophthalmologist. So I went and saw him, and he was like, I hate to send you back, but you need to go back and get an MRV. So they needed to look deeper and look at my veins. He even said I need to talk to a neurologist, and I need to get a lumbar puncture, which is a spinal tap. I've never had that done. And my mind immediately went to biopsy. And I don't even know if I got this right, but in my mind, I thought, you know, biopsies and anything like that, they're uncomfortable. They're not something that's super pleasant. But I think my mind was just trying to, you know, get mentally prepared, because I'm like, I'm not mentally prepared to have any sort of shot anywhere else. Like I'm fine with shots on my arms, my fingers, stuff like that, drawing blood. None of that bothers me. But spinal tap, that was kind of like, okay, I've never done that before, but we're going to see what it is. You know I have to do what I have to do to make sure everything is where it needs to be. So we go back. We wait for, you know, some time again, me and my husband. I get back there. They did the MRV. I did do the spinal tap. The only part that hurt is when they numb you. That was the part that I could have sworn I missed. They didn't say that to me. That was going to be the part that was going to kind of like, has this like burning sensation when they numb, and then after that you don't feel anything from what they're doing. But the spinal tap was to help relieve the cerebral fluid that's on my brain that wasn't draining, because it turns out I was having too much fluid in my brain, and that's why it was pushing through my eyes on my optic nerves. And they actually call that pseudotumor cerebri. And I'm getting all this in this matter of 2 days, y'all. And it didn't, oh my God, I can't even describe the feeling. I think I was more so shocked, because in my mind I feel fine. I feel fine. Like I don't even know where this came from. And I think that was something that was puzzling the doctors too. They had no idea where this could have came from. You know, normally it's either, you know, a drastic spike in weight, or I don't know, I mean the symptoms, you can't pinpoint what it is. And then they were telling me, you know, most of the time this is found in, you know, it is common in women that are in childbearing age, but they never could really pinpoint what causes it and why it happens to women in childbearing age. So just one of those cases. So after that, I ended up leaving, and they did some other blood work, and they saw that, you know, there were traces of markers for autoimmune disease. Doesn't necessarily mean I have one, but I'm going to see a rheumatologist to see if that is the case, if I have one. So that was something else. But then after that, left, everything was fine. I got my spinal tap. And what happens with that is you have to lay flat for like 24 hours, just about. You can't do a lot of sitting up, or you're going to have these massive headaches. And you'll be able to tell if it's a regular headache or not. Because these type of headaches, it's like a squeezing. And then they ended up putting me on these fluid pills. So I have to take these pills like 4 times a day. And so I'm doing that right now. And everything's fine. Like, the vision issue doesn't happen anymore, which is good. The only thing that we're kind of debating about is if I will move forward in doing a shunt, meaning they will have to put a shunt in my brain, which will help drain the fluid the way it's supposed to happen, so they can set it on a timer. That scared me when that came up. And, you know, even though, you know, people talk about how that could be common, Like I said, I've never had surgery, nothing like that. So for my brain to be one of the first things to, it just was a lot to take in. And then I got better. My husband took so good care of me. I thank God for him. I love him so much. Cooked for me a lot. He can really cook, y'all. So he chefed it up and, you know, served me in bed and everything like that. Just, you know, play game. You know, it did that quality time. You know, it just, I think when things like that happen, we naturally slow down anyway, and we just take into account like all the little things, you know. Not to say that we don't any other time, but we really focus on it. So it was a great experience for me, although I was getting all of this type of news. Not to mention, I freelance, you know, so in the midst of me building up my business with Love Beezsa, I had set so many goals, you know, starting off this year and, you know, with travels and things like that. And to get all that news, it was like, I want to crumble, but I'm not. And I think the biggest struggle for me, because I kept a good face for a while. And it's funny because I've said this to somebody before. A heart and mind can make amends. That's one thing. But your body, it has to heal from whatever trauma or heal from whatever it's going through too. That's a separate thing. And I think a lot of times we don't realize that our body has a mind of its own and it's going to flow through what it needs to flow through. And what I'm leading to from that is, throughout my process of healing, my iron got extremely low. I was about 15 points below where my iron should have been, to the point where I was having muscle and joint pain, like really, really bad. I went to a friend's wedding and I had like 4 or 5 heat patches on my back the whole time. Nobody really knew. I didn't really say anything, you know, but I wanted to make the event and everything. Had to go get, you know, a pregnancy pillow. I mean, I love to sleep with those anyway, like body pillows. To sleep in the hotel for me to get comfortable. I couldn't sit up straight. My tailbone, everything would hurt so bad. And then that's when, you know, they got me back in. I saw a neurosurgeon, followed up. I have like a whole team. So I'm a neurosurgeon, but also when I saw my primary care, you know, they got me set up to get an iron transfusion. And and so they were getting me set up for that. I had my neurosurgeon appointment that same week. And when I went there, this is where I want to talk about how your body has a mind of its own. I broke down in front of the neurosurgeon and another doctor. And that's not typical of me to do. And I think it took a lot for me to come to grips with that moment, because I couldn't control it. It was like I literally was overflowing with tears, and you know, and then from there, you know, they were handing me tissues, and it was like, it's okay, you know, you're dealing with like 5 different things all at once, and you're trying to maintain a good attitude, and they're like, but this is a lot, and you're getting news after news after news. And that was something else. It's like every appointment I went to, I was getting told that something was wrong, or there was something else that they needed to do, or they found something else. And it was just very surreal for me. And So then, so then from there, I remember getting in the car and I called my husband and I would just cry with him, and he was just like, you know, what's going on? And, you know, I just was like, I don't know. It's just coming up like vomit. Like I could not stop it from happening. And I was just crying about the thought of everything that's going on. And when I would talk to my mom, oh, I would cry all over again. And then it was like everyone I was talking to, I'm not gonna get emotional, y'all. I said I wasn't doing that anymore. But I think the biggest struggle for me was to not question God. I think that's what gets me really emotional. Doing it anyway. Who, because God has blessed me so much. And dog is like my face. Has done so much for me, my loved ones, my family, you know, just really has had my back like he has promised. I even felt guilty for somewhat thinking this, and I'm gonna say it in a second, but I would not say it out loud. And I know God knows your thoughts, but I would just try to get rid of the thought, you know, as soon as it would come up. But it was, why me? And I struggle with that so bad, because I was like, I don't want to seem ungrateful. I don't want to seem like this trumps everything that he has ever done for me. And I know he don't give you anything that you can't handle, but you know, it just was, a lot of things was kind of going through my head. You know, it is hard, you know, being a woman itself, you know, being a woman, and then the roles you take on being a woman. You know, I'm married, and I enjoy it and I love it, but you know, that is also another role. You know, I'm a sibling, I'm so many things. And then I have my work life where, you know, I'm doing what I'm doing because, you know, I'm career driven. I have a lot of aspirations. I have a lot of goals before, you know, little ones come into my life. But then even with that, you know, having PCOS be a part of my journey, you know, that was something, not that I ever felt defeated by that, but you know, that was another thing I'm carrying. And then all of a sudden I have like 4 new things going on, and one of them I have to kind of make a decision if I'm going to continue taking pills or surgery, because one of them conflicts with starting a family. You know, it was just a lot at once. And y'all, sometimes it's hard. But it just was eye-opening for me to go through something like that. And I even appreciate those moments where I fell apart. And I literally had told my mom that. I said, I feel like I keep it together so often that I need to fall apart. And that is me taking my own advice. And that's what I meant when I said early, sometimes we don't take our own advice. And, With Love Beezsa is a journey for Beezsa too. So, and that was something else, I saw this as an opportunity too. I'm like, I want to share this with my community. I want to share this with the people who, need to be poured into. I don't know if someone is going through something similar that I'm dealing with, or but I just want to give that encouragement and motivation that don't feel defeated. Having a great attitude is half the battle. My neurologist said this. He was like, you don't act like what you're going through. And most people may look at that like, where that's fake. And I'm like, no, it's manifesting. And that is kind of what I saw it as, is I'm not trying to hide or cover how I feel. But sometimes I feel like once we deal with our emotion, and it's okay to feel that, but then we also have to have the right mentality, the right attitude. Because if our body can't physically be where we need to be right now, our mind needs to be there so our body can follow suit. Our heart needs to be there so our heart can follow suit. So that was kind of my mentality going through this. And now it's like, I don't want to say I feel unstoppable, but I know I'm more relatable than I was before. That it's one more thing that I have to share with people, because I'm not gatekeeping, I'm not holding anything back, and even though this is new for me to talk about my experience, but this is something I have been wanting to do, and I wanted it to be in this video format. But it really, trying to find the right words, but it really revealed where my spiritual life is. And I think, although the thought crossed my mind, I'm very proud of where I'm at. And I'm proud of where I'm at in my journey, and where I'm going to be going. Because to even have the conscience of not wanting to challenge what's going on in my life. And, I could have had the opportunity to be upset and everything. And this is nothing against those who process their emotions differently. I'm just speaking on my experience. But just know that whatever we do in life, and whatever we say we are in life, and whatever level we think we are, and whatever platform or chapter in our lives, don't ever think that something won't come and test you to make sure, to give you reassurance, to give you confirmation, just to reconfirm that you are where you say you are. Because I'm here to tell you, it happened to me, and it made me feel good. I know there's areas of improvement in my life, but all in all, it made me feel good that I had a peace with me that I could not shake. I was honestly at this place where I was like, before I go into this emergency room, I'm okay with either way it goes. And I never thought I would say anything like that. And I'm not saying that means something super detrimental or anything like that, but I was open-minded for what they're going to tell me. I couldn't flood my mind with all the terrible things. No, because I serve an awesome God who's limitless. So who am I to limit my mind to negative things like that? Has no place. But that is a long story of what has been happening, but I'm back. I feel so good, and it's still a journey. I'm still dealing with the the swelling, you know, in my brain and my optic nerves and stuff. It's more of a gradual process, but I am taking the right medications. I'm doing the right things in my life and stuff like that to support it in the best way possible, so that, you know, it can probably offload itself naturally and I get back into normal, you know, what I should be. Or, you know, there's also that surgery route with the shunt to kind of help and stuff. So I know all my options. And that is what I love about it as well. It's like, I like when I can wrap my mind around it and I'm like, okay, I know what I'm up against. I know what I need to do. And I have a massive support system. So I just feel empowered. I feel empowered. So that is the story. And that is the message. Don't be defeated. Whatever you are going through. Whatever you are going through. There's a reason you're going through it. And I'm not saying that it should be something, you know, that is so, you know, painful or anything like that, but I'm just saying that there's something to take from it, and there's an eye opener somewhere. And just sometimes, you know, open your mind. Open your mind. It's a blessing to just be able to sit here and talk with you all. I never thought I would be at this point where I'm talking to a camera about what's going on with me in this side of my world. I'm always talking about all the other stuff or whatever, but this is even so comfortable, you know, to just be able to share what life throws at you sometimes. But yes, but on another note, 2025 has been live in full effect since January 1. But now here we are in April and we're about to go lead into May. So with that, I do want to share, because I know I've mentioned this before, and I don't know if you've been up there or not. If you haven't, you have to go to www.withlovebeezsa.com. Your girl has greeting cards. I have a greeting card line. I have over 80 different types of cards. I believe I have over 20 different topics. I have boxes for year-round. I have the full circle box, which is the year-round box where you can customize. And I also have the Moments That Matter box that actually comes with some custom goodies in there for you. I mean, subjects that you didn't really think about that I really dive in deep, because the wordsmith, okay? I'm going to talk, and we're going to talk deep in those cards. Let me help you say what you want to say to your mom. Mother's Day is coming up. I mean, Father's Day is coming up. The birthdays, they stay coming up. There's so many things that are coming up, and I just want you to be able to indulge and find the card that works for you and for whoever you're going to give it to. So please, 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 please check that out. If you have not subscribed to my newsletter on that website, you can do that as well at the bottom of the page. But all things Beezsa is on my website. All of it. You can find my blog on Substack. I mentioned Substack earlier. That's where you can read more about that reset post. More posts will be coming, but go check that out. What else? Oh my goodness, YouTube, where we are right now. Spread it around. But yeah, so many good things to come, from travels to tips to stories where we cry, we laugh, but we're just gonna gather here and we're just gonna have a good time. And you know, hit me a note, you know, drop me a note sometime, and you know, I would love to converse and communicate with you. Yeah, and also if you know of any if you have some events and things like that and you would like for me to be a part of that, please let me know. You can find my contact information on my website as well. I'm also on here in my bio as well. I would love to come be able to be a speaker at your event, or you know, showcase some products, or just maybe customize something for you, and we could talk about that too. But I love y'all. Keep your head up. Always know that you're capable of doing anything you put your mind to. Once again, don't ever feel defeated. Having a positive attitude is half the battle. And you are meant to excel. You are meant to succeed. You are already been predestined for a road full of glory and accolades. Now, do understand that lessons may come with that, but that's so you can appreciate the top much better and that you will understand how to stay there. I love you, and this is Beezsa signing off.